still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired. He didn't get fired. No, he didn't get fired. He never got his contract renewed.
Hey guys, good to be back for another season of Two Guys in Hockey Talk. So we're in season 5, episode 2, ready to give you another jam-packed session with a great guest. We got Paul Almeida here from Azorcan Global Tours. We're going to talk about that in just a sec. Pavel, how's your day?
It's been good. It's been busy. It's been chaotic. There's a lot going on, but I'm glad to be on the podcast and interviewing Paul because he's got some great insights for us, and nothing I love more than hearing about hockey. So how are you doing, Evan?
I'm doing fabulous. I am ready to talk hockey, and I just want to emphasize to everyone out there, if you're joining with us, we just want to say thanks to our sponsors and our partners that are out there right now. So you guys all know the Sports Empire Network. We want to thank them. You can follow on their social media venues. They have all things they like to talk on their podcast around football. They get into wrestling, whether you think it's a sport or not. I'm sure that's another conversation we can get into, as well as they have several different things that they will get into conversations on NBA. In fact, Pavel, you go over there often as well, don't you, bud?
I do like to follow the NBA when there's nothing good on hockey, or sometimes there's something different. So I've enjoyed it. I've enjoyed FIBA, Canada winning bronze. That was pretty impressive. I think the Canadian basketball program is really growing, so I'm looking forward to that. But anyways, I digress. Paul, welcome. How are you? Welcome to the show.
I'm fine. Yeah, nice to be here. Thanks, guys.
Excellent. Thank you. I don't know what Evan promised you, but clearly I hope we can deliver, unless because he makes some promises sometimes to me and he never fulfills them. So I'd like to remind him. But why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and kind of talk about how you got into the love of the game and where your first level of passion for hockey came about.
Yeah, sure. Again, I came to Canada as a 5-year-old, so it was in the mid-'70s. My parents moved here first from Portugal to make sure that they can make a family for themselves. And then they brought me and my sister over, and then I have another sister and a brother who played hockey. I never played hockey. I played soccer. That was my first game. And I fell in love with hockey watching Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday night. And being a fan of the Montreal Canadiens in the late 70s was a good time to be a fan of the Montreal Canadiens, winning 4 Stanley Cups in a row. And Guy Lafleur was my favorite player. And, whenever the Leafs were on Saturday night, I had to flick the channel over to the French channel to listen to the game in French. And whenever Saturday night we had Danny Gallivan calling the Montreal Canadiens, that was great for me. And then, of course, when the Oilers came into the NHL, I went to a couple of games in the World Hockey Association, not too many. But when the Oilers came into the NHL, I knew I had to become an Oiler fan at that point. And what really sealed it for me was not only the Oilers sweeping Montreal in the playoffs in 1982. It was also, I think there was one game here in Edmonton where the Oilers beat them 9-1 or something like that during the regular season at one point. And at that point I said, okay, I think I'm going to stick with the Oilers now. They look like they're the team on the rise, and the Canadiens look like they're the team on the downward end. By then Lafleur was, not what he was back in the old days. And a lot of guys started leaving the Montreal Canadiens at that point, although they did win, a cup every decade until the early 2000s. Obviously, being an Oiler fan in the 80s was probably the apex of, not only the Oilers, but being a fan of Edmonton sports in the 80s, I would say was probably the apex for anybody that lives in Edmonton. When you have the Eskimos 5 in a row, you had the Oilers winning 5 cups, and you had AAA baseball in Edmonton, watching players like Ron Kittle. Loved going to the ballpark back then, and so glad that the Red Hawks are back at the ballpark. I went to a game this year. Fantastic job that Steve Vogel and the group do there. And, I was there the night Ron Kittle hit 50 home runs. And to me, that's still one of my top Edmonton sports moments, being there for that. and seeing guys like Kent Seiko and Mark McGuire and a bunch of other and Major League Baseball players come through Edmonton. I would love to have that again, but the Redhawks are pretty good as well.
So I just want to say before Evan goes to his next questions, you seem to jump from one dynasty to another one. I hope you have time for the Islanders.
It was seamless.
From Montreal to Edmonton.
No, the Islanders were kind of a break in between, but it was a seamless transition. And I also have to say, in terms of my love for hockey, my brother played hockey. I played soccer. My brother played in the Western Hockey League with the Tri-City Americans, with the Saskatoon Blades. He played with Maple Leaf Athletic Club here in Edmonton. And he was a pretty good hockey player, probably around in the wrong era. He wasn't a very big guy, but could score. But playing in the late 90s probably wasn't the best for a player like that. I was also a general manager in the Alberta Junior Hockey League with the Shore Park Crusaders for 3 years. And I helped start the Drayton Valley Thunder before I went to Shore Park. So I've been in hockey for a long time. I also had one of the biggest hockey tournaments in Western Canada called the Edmonton Elite Hockey Challenge in the mid-90s.
So I was going to say, I didn't actually know about the junior hockey stuff here. So we definitely will have some more conversation around that before we hit into the Oilers. And so anyone, if you're watching and you're coming in, whether you're in the Southern States stuff, we're in Western Canada up in Edmonton, home of what Paul and Pavel and myself, I'm sure, and many others out there that love watching McDavid and Draisaitl. What will hopefully be a push for a Stanley Cup back in this territory, because there's been dynasties in the past. However, not everything is NHL. And so while 80% of our content is there, we like to follow all of the leagues, whether we're talking about Tier 3, we're talking Pee Wee, things. In fact, we'll even have presidents of ball hockey leagues come on sometimes, or roller hockey, and have conversations. KHL, SHL. We like to follow hockey around the world. The passion of getting back on the street. I'm guessing, Paul, so you growing up, you must have played some street hockey and had some good experiences.
Oh, yeah, ball hockey, playing street hockey. I mean, unfortunately, we don't see kids do that anymore, but we used to play ball hockey or street hockey every weekend. And we played ball hockey up until my university days, and it was a lot of fun. And, I still wish the kids would do that. Back then, we used to, with rotary phones, we used to organize baseball games with 20 guys showing up and ball hockey games with 20 guys showing up. Nowadays, kids have cell phone technology and parents have to organize every little thing for them. It's just not the same. I'm glad I was alive in that other era than the era that the kids have today, because I think we had more fun.
I will say that I'm part of the ball hockey community and I play, and I know that Johnny Grant, who's been on the show before, as well as a few others, including Jeremy, do a pretty good job organizing ball hockey around the city, whether professionally, essentially, with the BHE, Ball Hockey Edmonton 1, or just privately. They try to do tournaments for all ages and includes men and women, boys and girls. So I will say that I know it's not the same as when I played on the street, where you had to yell "car" when the car was coming to the street. But and there's definitely that missing. But what?
No, I said exactly. I go back and I remember. Now I grew up in Calgary, so if you're from Edmonton, you can boo me all you want. So I grew up, but I was a Pelle Lindbergh fan before he tragically died in that car accident. And so I had to find myself, the Michael Myers mask that was as close as possible to Pelle Lindbergh. Had the old, the blocker. You'd have a glove, a regular forward glove with a string attached through a whole bunch of foam to put on for your blocker, and then a baseball mitt. And I remember one time getting a puck right to the nuts, man. It was right to the nuts, and it was only a tennis ball. And I had these guys saying, suck it up, Buttercup. But it's interesting when you're saying, like you say, car, and they don't play on the streets. And I'm like,
oh, they don't.
I get it.
We used to rent ACT at Rundle Park, is where we used to play a lot. We'd rent the indoor gymnasium there, which was fantastic, which for a guy like me without a lot of running was perfect, because the area wasn't so big. I could take a slap shot from center and still have a chance to score every once in a while.
Who are the goalies?
Oh, they were great goalies. I was just a better shooter. That's all.
Okay.
Oh. Okay, guys, if you're listening and you were one of those goalies and you hear Paul, we want you to. Paul's like, I don't know if they're alive still,
I'm pretty sure they're probably concussed from those slap shots that
Oh yeah.
knocked
Yeah,
them
I
down, and that's when the ball rolled in.
Well,
I
that's
have
what
to
I don't
confess-
remember. You know, it's all the concussions they took.
I have to confess, Paul, when you said that you were watching, the WHD of the Oilers, I'm like, man, I thought Paul was a lot younger.
I'm 54, guys. I'm not that young. And, I went to a couple games and, I went to a game, must have been late 1979, like just before the Oilers got in the league. Because I remember vividly driving home with my dad in the car, listening to the post-game show, and the guy saying, "Oh, we can't believe we're in the NHL next year." So, I remember that very vividly. And, I'd been to the Edmonton Gardens, man, like not for hockey, but I watched, my dad used to love going for wrestling on Saturday nights at the Edmonton Gardens. That was something. So yeah, like I say, I came to Edmonton in the mid '70s. I'm an Edmontonian. I love all the options that we had to watch sports and watch activities in Edmonton. I think we're a great city that way in terms of things to do, things to take kids and make great memories that people will remember for a long time.
Well, speaking of memories, so why don't we take a little time before we start getting into some talk around the Oilers, maybe a couple of the junior teams here, because we only have you for a certain amount. Guys, if you have any questions, just be able to shoot them over to Paul. He'll answer them. If you got some thoughts or some ideas or some great memories, shoot them in there. So I guess, why don't you tell us about your tours? I know we've chatted a little bit online and stuff like that through Twitter and a few places.
Yeah, I don't want to bore you guys too much with that, but
for hockey fans, so we get people.
No, please do. Please do.
I've been doing these tours since 1994 is when I took my first tour over as a hockey team with my brother. So he got asked to go on a hockey team, and nobody knew what to do. So I had some contacts in Europe. My father played soccer in Europe, and I used to go back in the summer times and play. And so I did that first tour. It was probably 60 some people on the tour. And I got back and everything was okay. And I thought, oh man, that was a lot of work. I never want to do that again. But unfortunately or fortunately, a couple of teams called me to do it then the following year. And then it just grew from there. Whereas now we take 800 to 1,000 people to Europe every year. And so we take a lot of youth hockey teams. I'm leaving next Tuesday with Edmonton Vintage hockey team, which is a club here in Edmonton that has players that are 60 plus. I'm also going right after that. I'm leaving them halfway to go to Croatia. We rented a yacht in Croatia to do a sightseeing tour. And then we have 350 people for the World Juniors this Christmas. The World Junior Tour is probably our biggest tour that we do on a consistent basis. We do it only when it's in Europe. It's a big undertaking. We're talking, we include 14 games. So 350 tickets times 14 games that we purchase. We do a New Year's party. We do everything. So, and I just got back this summer from taking ringette teams from across Canada, hockey teams from across Canada, soccer teams. We take school teams. We do U.S. colleges. Mississippi State University does tours with us.
Wow.
So we've grown quite a bit. We started off just doing hockey and then into ringette. We hosted the World Ringette Championships 1 year in Prague. So we've kind of branched out into a lot of things. And then we also have started doing a lot of apparel. We sourced a lot of apparel for our teams that we take to Europe. Now we design custom uniforms for hockey, for soccer, for ball hockey. We do a lot of track suits that we get, custom made. Hoodies, we do about 2,000-3,000 hoodies a year for clubs in and around Edmonton and area. So we're busy, and thank God we're back and doing our business, because during the pandemic, of course, it was 2 years of being shut down. And so we're happy that this is probably going to be actually our biggest year this year. Yeah. And hopefully it continues after that. So
that's so you had mentioned, like, for example, especially, so if you're Canadians or Americans, especially, we have quite a few in the far south, so, guys, give us a shout out. Like, for example, we got Ray up in Jersey right now. Hey, Ray, how you doing, man? We got Sean down in Tampa. Sean, man, we got in different areas. So question is if they're from New York, if they're from Florida, is there a way that they don't have to fly directly, that they can link up? Is there any? I've never asked.
We have American kids join our hockey teams all the time. And we've taken teams from the Boston area. And for example, on our World Junior Tour, we got people from Philly. We've had people from Dallas. We've got people from Detroit. So we have people from like every province and territory of Canada coming on this tour, except Nunavut. I think it's the only one we don't have. And we have people from the United States, and we get people from the United States. And of course, like I said, we do U.S. colleges. I took Mississippi State University just a couple of months ago to Iceland, Germany, and Czech Republic for a marketing class excursion. So we do all sorts. Any custom tour, 25 people or more.
Yeah.
We can put a tour together for you to do sightseeing, to do anything you need to do in Europe. Only in Europe, though.
So I apologize. My cats behind the scenes are making a fuss. They're chasing each other. This is my nickname, the cat.
I do that to cats. You know, when they listen to me talk, they go crazy.
So you've really grown this program, which is incredible. How do you get people to get more involved, or how would you get people to sign up if they want to get involved wherever they are located? Because, you know, you're definitely growing exponentially, and it's impressive to see. And definitely there's a desire for this. But how would you get people to connect with you?
It's on my website, azorcan.net. And, you know, we don't put all the tours that we do up there because obviously I don't advertise private tours. We do a lot of corporate tours, private sightseeing tours. We have people in different parts of Canada that put sightseeing tours together annually with us to go to Europe, and we just change the itinerary every single year, and they invite family and friends or people from their area. But on our website, you know, we just announced we're going to be announcing a hockey team for next summer for kids, AA, AAA players born in 2009, 2010, as well as a team for 11, 12. We might announce some others as well, where kids can join from anywhere in Canada if they're a AA, AAA player. The team we took this summer was very successful. We were 8-1, and it was a great tour. And some of those kids I know are coming back again. The nice thing about my business, it's kind of grown organically. I've never advertised. I haven't really paid for any advertising. Right. It's basically word of mouth. I've got a mailing list of over 3,000 people, and you can get on our mailing list on our website, azorcan.net. There's a priority list. And what happens is you check off the tours that you're interested in. So when we do a tour, you get an email saying, hey, we've got a World Junior Tour coming up. Are you interested? Our World Junior Tour sold out in basically 3 weeks, 350 people.
Wow. Now, I was going to ask you that. So, like, you've done the World Juniors a few times, I believe, or more, right?
Yeah, we've been to Malmo, Sweden, which was Connor McDavid's first tournament. Yeah. We were in Helsinki. We've been to the Czech Republic, was a huge one. We had 325 people, and that was 2020, just before the pandemic.
Yeah. And
then this one, we have 350. And so it started off at 75 people. Then I said, okay, I'll take 100. It ended up being 150. I said, okay, I'll take 250. It ended up being 325. But this time I drew the line at 350, and I'm just saying no. Right. You know, I like to have a New Year's party with everybody together. And I like to physically know everybody on the tour, say hi to them, you know, interact with everybody. And I just don't want. I could take 500-600 people if I really advertised and pushed it.
Yeah,
but I like that kind of family feel on my tours where people feel like they're part of the program.
That's one hell of a big family, 300 plus people.
It is, and you know what? I know quite a few of them. Quite a few of them have been on multiple tours with us, not only the World Juniors, but we try to do a sightseeing tour in September. And they've been to Italy. They've been to, some are going to Croatia. So, you know, it's not just the World Juniors. They just love traveling together.
Just getting out.
So we want to, and we hope you're okay. We're going to put your website in our chat below so that people can check it out if they're interested, or share with friends if you're okay with that. Sure. But what we're going to say is that Evan can't ever come, because we just know that if he goes, he's just going to overtake the 300 party and just make it all about himself and just want to spend time with you, Paul. That's all it's going to be, right? Well, and you're not going to have time to talk to the 299 guests.
Well, the one thing I will say is you guys probably know Bryn Griffiths.
Yes.
So Bryn and I do podcasts from the World Juniors. And we're going to start doing podcasts leading up to the World Juniors. We have some special guests that we're going to have on here pretty soon. And we put them up on our website under the media section. We'll be putting them up there. You could probably listen to some of the old ones where, you know, on New Year's Day, I lost my voice after Canada won the gold medal, actually on the 5th. I lost my voice as well. So it does happen. I get too excited, and then I forget I have to do podcasts after.
That's so okay. Well, let's transition. You talked about the McDavid year coming in, obviously from the World Juniors and coming in. So let's hit in. We got a little bit of time here that we'd like to kind of hit on the Edmonton Oilers in the same city, the team that you are cheering for or getting behind, and you do a lot. You're very active, especially on X. And for those that don't know what X is, that's not your ex. It's not your ex-coach. It is X, which is basically Twitter on steroids, according to Elon. So, but anyway, next, you do a lot of polls. And, yeah, so I'm just kind of curious. Have you ever had a poll that you did? Now, I'm putting you on the spot, but you ever had a poll you did and you were just shocked by the answer?
I usually have a good feel for what the outcome might be.
Okay.
But there is the odd time that does surprise me. I can't think of any offhand, but there has been a time where I'm like, you got to be kidding me. And sometimes it's the love for certain players in the market that blind people's judgment. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And when you think that X player is better than an established top line player because he's your favorite. And, sometimes, I'll tell you one for sure. I could do a poll with any Edmonton Oilers players, and if Ryan Smith is in there, Ryan Smith will lead that poll, and it shocks me every time.
Wow.
But I understand the love for Ryan Smith. I don't share that big a love for him as other people do. But some people will put him in a higher pedestal than a Doug Waite. Some people will put him on a higher pedestal than a Glenn Anderson or a Yari Curry. And I'm like, okay, if that's your choice for the Wall of Honor, those are the ones that I usually get the most heated argument is if I put up a poll, who's the next guy to go up on the Wall of Honor? And if your guy's not on there, it's like, why is that guy not on there? And then the other one that people hate is when the guy says, oh, Paul, that guy should be one of the best Oilers of all time. And I'm like, he's not even in my top 20 Oilers of all time. And then people just lose their mind.
Snowball effect.
How dare you? How dare you say that?
Yeah.
It's interesting how every fan base, predominantly in Canada, given the fandom with hockey and the 7 markets, is how overinflated every draft pick is every year. And even a prospect who's been in the league for a little bit, maybe played a few games, maybe still hasn't, they're still on their entry-level contract. But then everybody else's is terrible. And they undervalue the players that aren't as good. So you definitely make a valid point, because I hear it about some players, like even in Edmonton, and the value right now, the question of Broberg. Can he play top 4 minutes? Can he fill in that role? Or do you keep Vinny Desharnais in there? What are your thoughts on the back end of Edmonton, what they did this summer, and do you think they have a chance to make an impact and even be first in the Pacific this year?
Well, I think they could easily be first in the Pacific. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They have, that power play is not going to be worse. It's, historically great, but now they have, added more firepower to the second power play unit as well. And, I think the Oilers have every possibility to be the President's Choice winner in the NHL, not only the leader in their division. Although
President's Choice or President's Trophy, because both are two different things.
President's Trophy, and maybe the President's Choice as well. I don't know.
Maybe
it could
maybe
be.
Lala signed them to.
We'll have to ask Superstore if they'd be their choice. But the thing is, with the Oilers, the depth of talent that they keep adding every year, having Matthias Ekholm for the whole year is going to make a huge difference. Yes. Bouchard quarterbacking the power play the whole year is going to make a difference. Based on what he did in the playoffs, I don't see that regressing during the regular season, playing against the Phoenix, Arizona Coyotes, and some of the weaker teams in the league. I mean, that power play is not going to change very much. They know what they're doing. And then you still have a second power play unit with Evander Kane, with now Connor Brown. You could throw, a few other guys on there that still have some offensive ability that maybe can grow into a role. I'm interested to see how Dylan Holloway fits in this year on the third line. I'm pretty sure it's going to be him, Fogle, and McLeod to start off with. And on the back end, as you mentioned, I think the Oilers are going to add another defenseman at the deadline. It's going to be another, they're going to give up their first-round draft pick again, and they might have to trade another player with him for money. I'm betting it's probably going to be CC, but they might have to move Kulak as well if the money is too big. And so they really need to give Broberg a shot in the top 4, either play him with Ekholm, which I think is probably the best choice, or playing with Nurse for a while. And you got to see what you have with him. And if he can take a step forward, then you have something. And then when it comes to the trade deadline, you can add that fourth defenseman, pull him back to the bottom pairing. But now you've given him tons of experience, and you'll run with a top four with Ekholm, Nurse, Bouchard, and whatever defenseman you bring in.
So are you putting Broberg then on the right side, even though he's a lefty normally? And
he's
got to be play both sides, but you would think he would be better suited on the right side.
I'd put him on the right side with
Nurse or Ekholm, or
Ekholm will be my choice. I think Nurse, Bouchard, they've played together before. I think they can do okay together. But again, the whole dynamic will change once they bring in another defenseman at the deadline. There's no doubt about it. But I think what you have to do is you have to give Ekholm every opportunity to take a step forward and see what you have with him. I mean, you still have Kulak, who's a serviceable defenseman. You still have Ceci, who's a serviceable defenseman. Ceci, I think, was injured last year and had a really tough time in the playoffs, really a tough time at the end of the year. 2 years ago, Ceci was one of the Oilers' better defensemen. Who's to say he can't, come back and do that again? And at $3 million, he's not super expensive. But if you are bringing in another defenseman, somebody's got to go out. There's no doubt about that.
Dare I say, I'll let Evan finish. Dare I say, Brett Pesce? I know he's an RFA with 1 more year left in Carolina.
Yeah, I don't think
he would be a
but I don't think they're trading for a guy that they can't sign long term.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, and we know Ken's been very adamant about that kind of thing. If you're letting go of your first round, it was actually interesting. But yesterday on Oilers Now with Bob Stauffer, right, talking to Ken Holland, he's like asking him about a draft pick. Is that open? And like Ken's like, you're 5-6 months ahead of me, man. I'm not even worried. I got to see what I got. So Paul,
but it's true because I'll tell you what the situation is and why it's true. He might need a goalie at the deadline.
Yes,
well, exactly.
It may be a big.
So Ray in the audience is asking about it, that the Oilers concerned, even though he's a Devils fan, so they just signed Keith Kincaid, who's coming back to the team. Yeah. They've got their own goaltending kind of questions, and I would predict that Hellebuck could be on their radar. But what are your thoughts on the Oilers goaltending? And then I'll switch it over to Evan. I'm sorry, Evan.
I know that's good.
Well, I'm interested to see how Skinner plays this year. I mean, if there's a sophomore slump, if he can come back and put up good numbers again like he did last year, I think they're fine. I can't believe that Campbell's going to be as bad as he was last year. You have to remember, this is a guy that came into the season and during the season was messing around with his equipment. Like he had different gloves every week. He had different pads every week. How that affected his style, how that affected his mentality. His equipment got bigger. So I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. And I want to see after a summer of him adjusting to new equipment, which I'm sure he got, and him adjusting to being in Edmonton. And I think there was a ton of pressure on him last year. Maybe that pressure is not as great this year because he knows he's got Stewart there as well. And we'll see. But at the deadline, if the Oilers feel that they need a goaltender, they will make a move, and they would have to make a move. And that's where I say, Ken Holland was correct in terms of talking to Bob and saying, hold up a minute, because a lot of things can change between now and the deadline. What if at the deadline, Draisaitl's out for the rest of the year? You're looking for a center. You know what I mean? What if Bouchard is out? You're looking for a power play for the quarterback going into the playoffs. So it's nice to be pie in the sky and say, yes, from my perspective as well, I'm saying they're going to add a defenseman at the deadline if everything else stays the same. But if you got a red flag situation, you got to do something about it. Like if either Stewart, Skinner, or Jack Campbell go down, you got to add another goaltender. There's no doubt about it. And then you have big decisions to make.
I got to say something, Paul. So I got to have you on more often because I've already dealt with this Broberg thing on the right side with Pavel. He had asked me, and I'm like, he's probably going to end up with Ekholm. They're going to give him a shot up there. He's going to play the right side. He argued. Everyone was arguing with me. And I'm like, guys, you don't get it. Down in Bakersfield, he was playing the right side 65% of the games already.
And he played the right side when I saw him at the World Juniors. When I saw him in the World Juniors in the Czech Republic, I watched him play 3 times.
Yeah,
I wasn't overly impressed, but he didn't get the top minutes or the top pairing. But he played the right side some of the time as well. And some defensemen can play both sides. It's not a big deal for them. And you know what?
Yeah.
I don't think Ekholm would have a trouble moving to the right side and giving Broberg the left side either. So
having that flux, right? Being back and forth with that. So here's the thing. Just coming into the Oilers, some of them. So I have actually a friend that just sent me a text personally asking. So Aiden's got a question here. He's just saying, what you gonna do? He said, what you gonna do when they come for you? Obviously, he must like Ghostbusters, but what you gonna do when the injuries come for you? Because it seems like a lot of teams. I mean, that's the big thing to get through. So, like Evander Kane last year, et cetera. So, what you're saying, I think earlier, Paul, is they want to be careful with what they let go because it could be forward, it could be depth, it could be goaltending. They're going to look at the spot they need to shore up that's going to give them the best chance, I guess, is what you're really saying.
Yeah, I mean, you have to look at, you have to give an opportunity to a guy like Broberg. You have to give an opportunity to a guy like Holloway. You've got to give an opportunity for Campbell to rebound. Yeah. You've got to give an opportunity for Skinner to show that he's not a one-year, flash in the pan. And then make your judgments after that. And then who knows? There may be a guy that surprises. Who knows what's going to happen with a guy like Brandon Sutter? If he can come in and play, okay, then you don't need to find another fourth-line player to be your center. Some of the other guys, Sam can give minutes, but I see Sam as being in Bakersfield and helping the kids down there, and I see Sam coming up when required. And I see Sam long-term working with the Oilers down in Bakersfield.
Oh,
yeah. So,
although I can see him potentially going back to Toronto somehow because I know he owns one of the junior AAA teams there with John Tavares. So
sure,
let's just say I'm going to give it a 90% that he's going to stay in the organization.
For sure,
for the long haul. That's just my say.
Well, his wife is from the area, if my understanding is correct. She did dentistry at the U of A, but so she's from here. So he definitely has a connection to the arena or to the area. You can definitely see a different impact. Brent Kulak could have a better season. There's so many players that could definitely make an impact, right? You're not worried about the big guns. You're more worried about can Nuge replicate? Can Kane stay healthy? I mean, albeit the nagging, weird kind of like hand cut injury or wrist cut injury like that. Yeah. Nobody expected that, right? Like,
well, going back to the injury situation, the injury, you hate to say it, but an injury to one of the top earning players may help the Oilers at the deadline with LTIR. If you and last year, with Kane on the injury list, it helped them with the cap. And don't forget that a lot of Brown's salary, right, is deferred till next year. But if there is space this year, they can subtract that from the salary for next year. So from those bonuses. So, injuries will happen. The one thing for the Oilers is if they have a guy who's long-term injury making $3-4 million plus, they can replace him with a guy out of the minors like a Sam Gagner who's making $875. That's going to help them down the road.
So what do you see as the biggest obstacle now going into this season for them to be able to actually get into the finals?
It's just being healthy. We talked about it. It's being healthy at the right time. Going into the playoffs, they need to be healthy. And, last year, we mentioned CeCe not being healthy. Well, if you have a guy like CeCe who's on your top four and he's not healthy, that's going to hurt you. Now, where you start doing is you start adding layers of talent, right? And that's what I'm saying is if they can add another top four defenseman, that pushes other guys down. Then you have that ability to bring guys up when need be. It's going to be another year for Desharnais as well. Yeah. He struggled in the playoffs at times. But, he's a valuable guy, big, strong guy who can, really be a big factor out there physically against bigger teams. So, he's going to get his minutes as well. And it's going to be interesting to see how they play those seven defensemen. I think the Oilers roster, other than maybe two spots up front, the defense is set. It's going to be the seven defensemen that we all think. Broberg and Desharnais plus the other five. Yeah. Goal is set. We could write the top three lines in pencil. The fourth line, you could put Janmark and you can put Ryan on there. And then, that leaves two spots. You're looking at a center and an extra player. So, Lavoie's the guy that now is waiver eligible. So you got to think about it before you send him down. But you know what? Every team in the league has a Lavoie. That's
but not every team has but not everybody has a 6'4", 220-pound Lavoie who can actually has done well too.
No, so they don't. But every team's got a player who is on the cusp.
Yeah, that's
true. Is going to go down, and yeah, he might be grabbed by somebody, but they might put him on waivers three weeks later, and the Oilers got first chance of getting him back again and clearing him right through Bakersfield. So,
well, Paul, you mentioned it earlier, Paul. It's overvaluing your prospects and what it was at the beginning of the show, right?
Listen, the Oilers are at a point right now where it's not prospect driven.
Agreed.
They want to win a Stanley Cup. If they see somebody who's better than Lavoie right now, that's the guy that they're going to play. They're going to give guys like Lavoie maybe a chance a few games. Obviously, the guys that they have to give the biggest chance are Holloway and Broberg because those guys are on your team.
Yes.
But they're not. This is not a developmental team anymore. This is a team going for it. And if at the deadline, there's another Ekholm available, and they're asking you for Broberg, Lavoie in the first, you have to make that trade.
No.
That's it.
So we better get ready to do a wrap here, but let me ask you one question, and we'll get a final thought off of you here. Sure. So one of the things that has been brought up, and it was quite well known after the series last year at Vegas in those last two games, and it was shown, and that was on the structure of the zone defense versus man-to-man defense that Edmonton was playing. I mean, they kind of got they got man smacked, as who was it that made it famous? I think it was in Pittsburgh. He beat him like a rented mule. Darren Detition used to use it all the time.
That was Nick Lang.
And I'm just like, they obviously have to make an adjustment. Do you think that they're going to go with a hybrid, or do you think that they'll make some in-game decisions and switch between man-to-man and zone?
Well, the bottom line is no matter what system you make, it all comes down to two things: the talent you have and the execution by that talent. And the problem with the Oilers is their lower talent on the roster was not the same as Vegas.
No,
so if Vegas has better talent, whatever system you're playing, you better play it to a T. And if they could take advantage of you, they will. So what the Oilers are doing is they're shoring up their bottom end talent.
Yeah.
They added Brown, so now they can push another guy down. Yamamoto and Puljujarvi did not work last year.
Yeah.
Okay. So they had to shore up that right side. So now you have Holloway on the right side and you have Brown on the right side. So you're increasing your talent level there. You're increasing your talent level on defense by adding Ekholm. A full year of Ekholm is going to make a big difference. You add another guy. So the whole key of winning a Stanley Cup is your depth, because that last player that's on the ice for you, he's got to be able to play and be effective. And for the Oilers last year, whether they're playing man-to-man or they're playing zone, I prefer zone myself. Okay, that's just me. I don't like leaving the front of the net open and having guys chase guys all over the ice because all it takes is one guy to slip, one guy to fall, one guy to turn the wrong way, and you have a guy all in front of the net by himself and he scores the goal. For me, zone, keep them to the outside, let your goalie, face shots from the boards and the corners and far at the point. That's always been my preference. Ultimately the coach has to decide based on the players he has what the best, system is going to be to suit those players. But if you ask me, and if I had the choice, I would play zone. And I'm sure, like the players, the coaching staff learns a lot by watching what happened in the playoffs.
Yeah, of course.
And they're not going to sit there and be stubborn and say, well, we just got to keep playing our way and eventually we'll get through. No, you got to evaluate what happened, see where maybe things broke down, why they broke down, and was it the system?
Excellent.
Or was it poor play by some of the players on your team? If it's poor play by some of the players on your team, you got 82 games to fix that.
Yeah.
If it's the system,
excellent.
You've got 82 games to say, guys, maybe we have to have this in our back pocket so that when we have a lead, maybe we go to zone defense instead of man on man.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, excellent. Fair enough. And I will say, because I'm looking it up on Daily Faceoff, so the lineup for Vegas in their fourth line: Will Carrier on the left side, Nicholas Waugh, Roy in the middle, and Keegan Colasar. All big bodies, 6+ foot guys, 200+ pounds, can skate too. Like, they're not the fastest, but they're going to make you pay. And we
They
saw
pressure-
that with Keegan Colasar and, making the team pay. So, they got into the head of the Edmonton Oilers. But when you have that, and when you have Nicholas Hague and Zach Whitecloud as your third line pairing, know you're deep. They steamrolled.
Yep.
That's all it was.
That's what the Oilers have to match, right? And where the Oilers maybe could have had an advantage was in goal.
Yes.
But, unfortunately, Jack didn't deserve to be in net. And Stewart, he was good, but he wasn't great. And in the playoffs, sometimes you need great goaltending to get you through a series. And if the Oilers had great goaltending in maybe one or two of those games, maybe we'd be talking about them being Stanley Cup champions this year. Yeah. But that's how fine it is. And, the thing that I don't like is people say, oh, let's blow it up. We got to blow it up and change the defense. We got to change, 4 defensemen. We got to blow out the third line. We got to blow out the fourth line. You can change when you're at the point the Oilers are, you're looking for incremental improvement from some players. Bringing in players that are going to make incremental improvement. You're not just going to blow out and just bring in another guy who's got similar skill level and skill. You have guys here that are committed to winning, that are part of the team. And you have young guys that you have to give opportunity to a point. They have to be able to contribute. And if they can't contribute, that's where at the deadline you got to say, okay, maybe Holloway's not ready for a third line role in the playoffs. We got to fill that and move him down to the fourth line. And then you have a guy like Dylan Holloway in the fourth line. Then you're talking about a guy that can skate, that has some physicality, that can maybe play at a higher tempo than a normal fourth liner.
So I'm going to put my betting odds at 1-3 that within a month, there's going to be probably 1,000 Oiler fans all throughout social media already ready to get rid and trade of probably one of your top 6 or your top 4 D or forwards.
Oh, yeah, that's constant. But I think what the Oilers need to do is, they need to look at the waiver wire, see if there's anything there that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but, exactly. Keep your eyes open.
The trade to make is at the deadline. And again, it's not going to be a 5-for-5 trade or anything crazy, but you're looking for quality, not quantity. And so they're looking for a quality player that can push them over the edge at whatever position they feel at the time requires the most. And you mentioned Hellebuck for New Jersey, right?
Yeah.
If the Oilers don't have a goalie, you might have to go for Hellebuck, and you have to weigh, is it better to get Hellebuck as a goalie, or is it better to get a defenseman in the long term, even though you might not be able to sign Hellebuck?
Yeah.
But, Hellebuck's asking for a lot of money, and I don't see a lot of these top teams that are up against the cap going to be able to give him that $8-9 million contract.
Oh, no. He wants more.
Even if he gets, Jersey has the ability to get him, but I can't see the ability to sign him unless they're moving a bunch out.
I can't see any contender having the ability to sign him. If he wants, here's the dilemma. If he wants the money, he's going to have to go to a middling team that has cap space.
That's it.
If he wants to win, he's going to have to look at the team and say, okay, this is a team that can win right now, and maybe 6 to 7 million is going to be their maximum.
Yeah.
Well, he might be better to just say, I'll sign at a lower price and give myself 1 year or 2 years while that cap goes up, right? So there's a whole bunch of options on that.
Yeah, and you look at the waiver wire last year and what Nashville, because they were one of the teams that gave up on Eli Tolvanen, and he turned out to be a great success for Seattle Kraken. He was, even though he was playing top 9 minutes, he was putting up points left, right, and center, and I'm sure David Poyle, or maybe, he was checked out because he was retiring. He was like, what did I just give up on him? Right?
Yeah.
Because he was excellent. But not every player also fits into the system, right, that they play in. So,
and for the Oilers,
works.
And for the Oilers, they're looking for very specific players in the bottom 4.
That's it. That's
the
it.
fourth
By the
line.
way, Ray's writing in from New Jersey. I'm not paying him $9 million a year long term at 30 years old. There you go, Ray. I don't think they're signing him at $9 million at 30.
Nobody is.
Well, and on top of that, and to trade for him, so you're giving up things and then signing him, just like they did with Paul Myers. So
that's
giving up even more.
I actually can't see with the direction they're going, giving up unless they can get him at a good price. They're not going to give up.
I'm looking at John Gibson going to New Jersey. That's the name that I think would be linked, just because of his cost, and he's got 3 more years, I believe, this year. $6+ million. So
that's too much for me.
I'm like 2 on him, 3 on him, man. We're at that stage.
Yeah, I'm not a Gibson fan at all.
Well, he's a technical goalie, but I don't think that at his age he has the athleticism to be able.
Yeah.
Are you talking about John Gibson? He's young.
Gibson's
Talking
young.
Yeah, he's
He's not
26.
he's not that old, but he's not that great.
No, he's
So,
like 25, 26. What are you talking about?
Oh, he's like 28 years old already, or something around there.
yeah, I could see Gibson going to Buffalo.
Pavel, you better go check that out. So, well,
I'm
Paul,
looking
man,
it
it's
up
been a
right
blast.
now.
Azorcan Global Tours, guys, you got to check it out if you're interested. Whether you're in Edmonton area, you're from somewhere else. We're gonna go ahead and put Paul onto some of our former guests. You'll be able to follow his links and some of the places and connect
Oh,
with
he's
them.
30. I lied. I'm wrong.
He's 30.
You're right.
I was even giving him young. I was just, I may get names wrong, but you get ages wrong. So, but then
He's so young in the NHL for me. It's the ice.
I get called for ageism sometimes, right? And but Paul, man, it's been a blast. Thanks so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
To kind of seeing how this season goes, following together on what's happening, and hope to link up a little bit more, maybe on the junior stuff as we get closer. We might reconnect here.
Yeah, sure, that would be great.
Yeah, I'd like to hear kind of a little bit about the junior story around the teams and stuff like that. Just to give recognition and notice, because a lot of people don't recognize that's where it all begins. And also the excitement. I mean, playing at those levels for some people.
The players we've seen is unbelievable.
That's bragging rights. So, you don't have to play in the NHL to have bragging rights. It's hard to get at any of those levels.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I know behind the scenes you were telling us how you have a hard time creating polls, so I have one for you. Who is
Sure.
a better host and question asker, Evan or me? And I know 100% will be for me, and maybe 1 or 2%
You're
will
both-
be 98, because
No, you're
you'll
both-
pity Evan and give him one vote.
So what I'd like you to do is do a poll. Maybe I'll put it up on mine there, Pavel. I want to ask people, do
It's
you
not as legit.
know
as Paul
anything
did,
about hockey? I don't know. Hey, Paul, thanks so much.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you, Paul.
Words of Ed Whalen as we normally end. I'll end this time with you. In the meantime and in between time, and in the words of Red Green, keep your stick on the ice, Paul Almeida.
Perfect. Thank you.
Cheers. Awesome, man.
That was
Some
super
great
fun. Thank you,
insight.
Paul. That was appreciated. We're going to put his website down in the chat. We're also going to put it on our website to make sure to check it out if you're interested, because he does some pretty cool tours, and it's pretty incredible what he's done. And as you guys heard, it's kind of a grassroots movement thing that has really taken the
Awesome.
world literally by storm. And you just see the love of the game all around the world, regardless of where you are. There are grassroots movements of hockey. And I do hope, because I know he kind of alluded to this, that wherever you are in the world and you're young and you're watching us and you think we're old, that's fine. And you're on the TikToks and stuff. But go out and play some ball hockey. Get a stick from your dad's garage or your grandpa's garage or whoever's garage. Just start looking for sticks in your garage. But make sure it's a hockey one, not just a regular branch. And play some hockey, because I loved playing when I was growing up.
I'm actually getting pumped right now. I'm just thinking about, so my grandkids are getting older, and I'm like, man, I got some sticks, I got stuff ready. I got to go grab. My next door neighbors do a lot of they don't do street hockey. They do like driveway hockey on an angle even, right? And I'm just like, oh man, we just, I don't care. We just got to block the streets. We got to set up a game on an afternoon. Grab with the parents, the kids. Let's get together. Isn't that the passion and the excitement? And then, I'm going to pretend I'm my favorite player. You get to pick who you are as a goalie. Imagine it, I mean, I remember when I was young, we'd play on the front porch. I'd be the goalie. I was a Vancouver Canuck, my very first team. I'm looking behind you. I was King Richard Brodeur, and I pretend he was the Islanders because they just walloped them in the Stanley Cup final. And I remember I was calling the play. I was like, and Mike Bossy passes over to John Trottier, Brian Trottier, to John Tonelli. Score! No, he doesn't score. Brodeur with the excitement, the calling of the game. He was mentioning Danny Gallagher of calling like Paul when he was young. He's like, oh yeah, absolutely. So guys, maybe if you know of who are some people that you wanted to emulate when you were young, follow after, all that kind of stuff. So, hey, man.
Dare I say Ryan Smith?
Oh, dare you. We know you have the jersey. You better get that jersey up next week, man. You're always a week behind on your jerseys, but,
I really am.
So we don't have a lot of time. I actually only got about 6 minutes, and we're going to have to do a quick wrap up here.
All right.
I got to get back to work. I have to make a living so I can carry this show. Because and I will say this year, Pavel's actually carrying some of the workload, but we're only 2 episodes in. No, just joking.
That's my quota. I'm done. The rest of the season, I'm out.
You're fabulous, man. It's been great. I'm really excited. I'm still a couple weeks away from giving you guys my Revs 2024 top 15 players coming in. I'm going to be straight up with you when it comes to some of the different players that are out there. Celebrini is number 1. It's going to go. Iserman. I have to get the pronunciation. I don't even have it down yet. I've been following.
I'm surprised Iserman's back in the game. Is he down?
And then everybody is talking about Demidov. And they're saying how he's better than me. Guys, he's not better than him, but he is going to be a third. I think the top 3 is going to be a lock. And I'm going to tell you about all the others and around it that I have some thoughts on. Now, we will get to talk next week about the Chicago Blackhawks. So we will be talking Chicago Blackhawks with Tab Banford. He works for Bleacher Report, Dover Prospects. He's one of their best writers. He has lots of stuff out there. He's got a great following. He's very active out there. So you guys got to go and follow Tab. I'll make sure I put in our social media channels the different stuff that we have and places that we're going to share. I do want to do a quick mention here to just put out on our website, guys. Make sure that you go onto our website. There you can find our blogs. You can find a little bit more about us, find our former guests. You can type in right onto our episode, even the one now. So obviously the Cat's been getting his episodes out, but the rest of us got to pick it up. Now that we're ready to go for the season, we got all our former guests, ones from a long time ago, last year, last 2 years. We got our partners, JR Web Designs, Penny Billionaires. By the way, the song that came on Invincible, you're going to hear it just as we go out. We have exclusive rights to the song by Penny Billionaires. I just want to thank the guys at Penny Billionaires for that ability. Sports Empire Network, you guys rock, giving us that platform, sharing and working together with those things. So, man, it's going to be awesome. Hey, quick, tell you what, why don't we do this? Give me one last final thought of talk that you want to talk about, and we're going to do it and give it a wrap.
Well, the big story in the world of hockey is Columbus Blue Jackets and the whole Mike Babcock.
I was hoping you were going to do
that. So I wrote a little bit about the article today, but essentially what it was, as you guys probably already are aware, because it's 2 days old, so it's old in media news. There were some allegations made about Mike Babcock asking to look at photos, private photos on their phones by some of the players on the teams. Both him, Mike Babcock, the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Blue Jenner have come out and denied vehemently that wasn't the case. Like, they did look, but it was a way of building rapport. The NHL and NHLPN investigated. They haven't found anything yet, but there is a big scrutiny given the history Mike Babcock has with certain players, the most recent with Marner in Toronto and how that ended. And so there's definitely, what I'm going to say about this situation is we don't know all the facts. Both sides have kind of shared a little bit of what is going on, but there's definitely going to be an eye on Columbus, for good or for worse, and on Mike Babcock, especially if things go sour in the season early on. So just keep an eye on that, because that's a big thing. People have to understand that sometimes things are blown out of proportion. How coaches connect with other players. It's been going on for a while, according to Elliot Friedman, but not everyone feels as comfortable given the power dynamic. He's a coach, they're a player, maybe they're young coming in. Boone Jenner's the captain, it's a little bit different. Johnny Gaudreau, who interviewed, said he was fine, kind of did his own thing. Again, he's a veteran. Zach Werenski, veteran. But if you have somebody younger coming in, you want to be mindful, right? If Alex Texier is coming in after a year of being off, how does he feel about this? So being mindful of the young guns there. And we here at Two Guys always like to say, and I'm very keen about this, we want to wait for the facts. We may be a little bit delayed on the story, but we don't want to say the wrong thing. And we have to respect that there's more behind the scenes. Anyways,
so I don't have a problem saying this right now. I think Mike Commodore and Biznasty are gaslighting. Like, this could be real, but you don't get this out there that fast, that quick, just because you got one little text that came in. And you don't know the perspective. The perspective is important to have more facts. It could be true. I feel like they're trying to jump the gun, thinking that they've got onto something. Elliot Friedman brought it up. Unfortunately, there's a reason why people are going to jump on this. but I feel like I'm disappointed. I know Whitney didn't really say anything. He was like, whoa, wow, right? You know, he was cautious, but Biznasty has been, I mean, he's been nasty. And Commodore was not any better. And, you know, it's like they're in flurry. Like, I love the guy growing up. He was one of my heroes. But the things that these guys say and they take liberty and they take advantage of, and they mislead people or they're just rude to people. And I think when you're rude to people, I lose all respect for anything you had said, even if you know what you're saying. So
I think there's a lot of pressure on the Columbus Blue Jackets, and this is only gonna put the microscope on the team, and it's only gonna make things worse. So just be mindful, because as soon as something goes wrong in Columbus this season, let's say they go on a few 5-game losing streak, people are gonna pile on and say, "See, this is why, and this is what's going on." And you need to build rapport and trust with your coach. So there's definitely that. You have to be mindful about what you say and how you say it, and about who. There's definitely stories behind the scenes, but if you can't sometimes verify the information that you're being shared, and I understand sources need to be secret and you don't want to reveal everything, but you have to be mindful, because it can't be a hit job. That's my only thing.
That's it, man. That's it. It's been another great week. That went super fast tonight. I'm shocked. And as always, man, you rocked it just like Rocky, just like Trevor Williams, the Vancouver Canucks of the 80s, man. You are the Tony Tanti of Two Guys in Hockey Talk. Do you know who Tony Tanti was?
I do. Let me skate away like the Canucks.
Thomas Bradeen. How am I helping some of you older folks? You're just like, whoa, Harold Snaps. No, okay, that's enough. I got to get going. Well, it's been a blast. It's been another ring a ding dong dandy, in the famous words of Ed Whalen. In the meantime and in between time,
keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. We love you guys. Cheers.
Could that just put him over the edge?
I'm not too sure. I don't think they did well.
He's a bully.
I'm just so sick and tired. I'm hanging on a wire, a foot over the fire, and it's burning. I can feel it inside. Done with the same cliche, done with the day after day. There's got to be a way. Now is the time to break the tide. I'll live, I'll die for what is wrong and what is right. I'll take the pain for all the ones without a name. To be invincible, we'll be invincible.
They still have a lot of holes to fill.
He didn't get fired.